As introduced, thank you for that nice introduction. My name is Bob Cameron. I've been working for the FBI for 19 years. I've been doing cybercrime for those 19 years. Prior to that, I designed networks for the National Security Agency in the United States. I'm here today to talk about weaknesses and things I see, problems I see in the community and have seen for those 19 years. Repeatedly, it's always the same things. And it's not necessarily there's no off-the-shelf solution that is going to solve all your problems. I think that's important to understand. Whatever your industry, and I think most people in this room understand that, whatever your industry, you are not going to buy something off the shelf, plug that big, huge firewall and incident detector and all these great boxes in your network and fix all your problems. That's not how real life works. As you know, all these ransomware is rampant. Before that, then we have email compromises, which is rampant and very popular in Nigeria. We got ransomware, we got distributed denial of service to a lesser degree. We got a lot of problems. We got phishing, we got all sorts of things going on. The number one threat continues to be people at the keyboard getting phished and getting compromised and bringing that malicious software into your network. That is not a problem you can fix by buying a piece of hardware and snap it into your network. So I think there's a lot of great products and a lot of great products people talk about that do a lot of good. But there's some things that the industry has to understand and people in this industry have to, I believe, emphasize to fix these problems. So I'm going to talk about weaknesses. I'm not going to talk about victories today. We'll do that next year. So next slide, please. The threat. We'll go to the threat. Slide 2. Understanding the threat for your particular industry is very important. It's also very tedious. It's very monotonous. They can go through all the threats. How many of us subscribe to a threat feed here? Me personally, I get like 5 threat feeds a day, and they're all voluminous. They all have like 50 or 60 items in them. I cannot read them every day. But you need people in your shop who understand the threat against your particular industry. So if you're a banker, your threat is going to be different than if you're running a server at a military base, or if you're running a mid-service provider, if you're providing services to smaller companies. All these threats are different, and you must understand who's coming after you and your company and the techniques that they use. And you have to have someone on your team who can delve down into the threats and say, this is what we're looking at. Let's focus on that, because you cannot focus on every single problem out there. There's way too many. You have to focus on the problems that are more likely to affect you. You need someone who can do that. And your management has to understand that and have buy-in. Now, here's a real simple one that's real easy to fix. If someone else, so in my line of work, I might find a bad actor, right? And on his server, I might find that he's compromised not only the victim that I was looking at, the poor water heating company in Minneapolis, but also there's a company in Hungary that was compromised, a company in Nigeria that was compromised, a company in Japan that was compromised, and I can find this all on the server once I look at his, what he's done and what he's doing. So if I know you're compromised, how do I contact you? If your company's compromised, ABC Corp, and I know ABC Corp has been breached, and this bad guy took all your information and he's holding it and he sold it to other people to use, how do I contact you? Is there anyone there to pick up the phone and say, oh, that sounds legitimate, let me look into that? What I find is a lot of times there is not. The industry has come together and they have this security.txt file where you can put point of contact, your security policy, your open PGP key, things of that nature, where you can say, this is how you contact me if I have a problem. Maybe someone hijacked your IP space. There's many things that could happen to your company, and you need to have someone who can pick up the phone and understand what's viable and what's not and act on that. If no one's there to listen, it doesn't matter who's knocking on the door and what information they have. Third slide, hiring. Let me say this. The people who actually do the hiring at your company should not be top level executives who don't know anything about technology. You have to hire the right people, and you don't do that by getting the guys with the most juice, the company doing the hiring, because most, unless there are exceptions, but for the most part, they don't understand what's in the weeds of the technology, what's going on, what's technical, what's not. And a lot of times they are fooled. A lot of people in these, they're verbal warriors, people real good with language, people who know how to throw acronyms around, and they can fool people into hiring them, even though they know very little about security, programming, whatever you need. They know very little about it, but they may get hired in an interview if they're convincing enough. So make sure that you have technical people doing the interviews. And another aside, if you do buy an off-the-shelf product and are running with that in your shop, make sure that that's configurable and that the people you hire can add rules to that device or that piece of hardware, either YARS to look for problem, Python script, something like that, to address your particular threat. Key is hiring capable people, not people who can speak well. Next, we're going to talk about trust, and there isn't any. So I worked in the Czech Republic for a while, in Prague, and there's a company out there called Avast. Has everyone heard of Avast? They offer a antivirus solution. Okay, we're trying this mic. Still good? So I walk into Avast and I say, hey, you know, we'd like to know what's going on. What do you guys have? You haven't reported. There's this thing in Europe called the GDPR where everyone's forced to report if they've had a compromise or a breach. And I was there for a long time, and no company ever came forward, not one, that said, I've been compromised. And that was the law. That is the law in Europe. You have to self-report. Nobody does. So I talked to Avast and I said, you know, no one's self-reporting. What do you guys have to say about that? You have a big footprint in Europe. And he said a couple things, and I won't forget it. No one is ever going to report this. Whoever did this crime will never be caught. And there's no upside to reporting anything. So we will not report now, and we will never report anything. And I said, okay. So I left. That was terrible. And a year later, Avast buys, has anyone heard of the software Crap Cleaner? C Cleaner. It's meant to like clean up your registry and clear your browser. A lot of people out in the community use it just to clean up their system. It's popular. I think it has over 1 million users. Well, they bought this C Cleaner software from another firm, and they started pushing updates to the software. Well, it turns out they were pushing malware to all their customers for over 2 months and infecting over 1 million users. This antivirus company was affecting millions of people. And you know what they did? They didn't report that in Europe. They contacted a law firm in Washington, D.C. in the United States and said, put out a press release that says we're doing a great job fighting this threat, and we're working actively with law enforcement. So we have this company who is obstinate at best with dealing with law enforcement or anybody like that, and then they get smoked. And what do? They go straight to the lawyer across the ocean to issue a press release saying they're working with everybody. What I'm getting at is what you read and what you see isn't the truth. And these are lies. Avast is not working with law enforcement. Avast got smoked again with the same product. Avast is not smart about how they share information or how they deal with. They're a very insular company, right? They don't work with their peers. They don't work with their competitors. I think it's very important you don't have to develop trust with law enforcement. I'm not telling you that. What you do have to develop trust with is your peers and your coworkers and people in this community who you work with to share information about what you are seeing on your networks and what's happening to you. If you don't have a means to share information, and to be fair, I don't know that framework here. in Nigeria. But you need a framework to share attacks, threats, things that you are seeing so you can feed off each other and get smart. Because you don't get smart by keeping everything inside your four walls and saying, all right, well, we're seeing this. There's a couple businesses here locally that got ransomware. And, you know, they didn't report to anybody. We find out about it a different way. But they're really not doing anybody any good by just burying their heads in the sand and saying, oh, you know, I got smoked and I don't want anyone to know and I want to keep my job, which is all very reasonable, you know, fears. But it's not effective. And that's why we continue to lose, because we have the mindset as cyber folks to save face. Everyone wants to save face and say, it didn't happen to me. I'm smarter than that. My guys are better than that. And you have to tell your boss every day, I'm the best in the business. But the truth is, everyone is going to get hurt by this. Everyone is going to fall victim. I've seen it in huge companies. You read about it all the time. Companies like Avast. So don't wait until you have to find a partner to feed off of. I mean, it would be my wish that everyone would have a database where they could share these ideas and share these threats and share these problems. But that, you know, that really doesn't exist now. But it's something to put in your mind, because just hiding is not fixing the problem. These threats persist because the culture on the end of on the other side of that, the people who are attacking your network, they do share ideas. They do tell each other what works. They trade information all the time. Sometimes they give it away for free. And they're coming hard, and they have a lot of time and a lot of resources at their hands. It's a very hive-like environment when you get in those forums where they develop these techniques, they sell them, they rent them, and people use them. Even people who have very little technical ability can buy something off the shelf and attack your network very successfully, especially if they can get someone to click on an email. Again, none of this is going to be solved by just buying something. You have to hire the right people, you have to have the right mindset, and you have to attack the problem. You cannot hide from the problem. You know, Nigeria is known for its consumption of crypto, right? I think it's number 2 in the world, maybe number 1. Right now, everyone's using Bitcoin and things that can be tracked on the blockchain. Soon they're going to be using Monero, which cannot be tracked by the blockchain and actively obfuscates where it's spent and where it goes. So this is what's next. So from my perspective, attribution is not going to get any easier. Okay, and it's really hard to track someone with just an IP address. So we need people to, like I said, my main message is we have to attack the problem and work together to understand the full scope of where all these things are coming from. Where are they? What are the ISPs that are involved? What are the VPNs that are involved? How are they monetizing these attacks? All these different frameworks that must be understood by the people who are sitting in these control centers. I mean, do they have that information? Do they know what to look for? Because what they need to look for isn't something they learned in college. What they need to look for comes in those threat listings every day and is updated constantly, and they have to be abreast of that. And what they're looking for isn't necessarily going to pop red on a screen. So that's my point. Share ideas, get smart, don't be afraid, always attack. And all this costs, last slide, all of this costs money. And this is another big problem in the United States, maybe here, maybe not, but telling the CEO that he has to spend money on internet security and spend money on people, he has to hire the right people. You can't just buy a device and plug it in and pay somebody else, is a tough argument to make. So everyone in this room is a salesman, right? You have to sell management that you need the right people and the right resources to get this done. If you don't do that, if you're not able to do that, you're going to end up with a subpar team with subpar gear and subpar results. And then you're going to get hit with ransomware and you're going to be out of commission. And then your boss is going to say, why did you let this happen? So it's incumbent on all of us to you just have to attack it. You have to be smart. You have to be aggressive. This isn't the kind of job where you can be passive and expect things to come to you. This is a job where you have to be aggressive and sell this and push it. Things aren't going to get done if we just plug in machines and walk away from them. So just keep that in mind, and remember, hire the right folks. Make sure you know what the threat is. Make sure people can contact you if there is a problem, and sell your ideas and sell the threat to the people who hold the money, and make them understand that if they don't do this now, they're going to be paying later. And they'll be paying a lot more, because once it comes out in public, then it's even worse. So in the interest of saving your own jobs, sell the programs now. So it's just a short presentation. That's my paradigm. That's where I'm coming from when I look at the problem, and when I go out and meet with companies all the time. And if you have the wrong people in place, you will never succeed. So you need the right people in place who are actually technical. So there you go. Any questions? All right. I'm good. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Mr. Cameron, thank you very much. Yeah, while you were doing your presentation, you did mention something about Harvest, and I jokingly said to my friend here, if Harvest is on your laptop, just take it out. So if what you said is true about Harvest, how come we don't have perhaps regulatory bodies that should tell them to stop operating, and they are still operating?
Oh, you mean in terms of the reporting aspect?
Correct.
Right. Well, that's the thing. The GDPR, the only teeth in that is if they find out about it from so I'm talking about the EU now, not Nigeria, but in the EU, the only teeth to the GDPR is if someone else reports it. So if the victim company doesn't report it and hides, no one outside that organization may ever know that they were compromised. So they have gotten away with it. And it's a strange the GDPR is a strange model that I don't necessarily agree with, because you can't really force companies to comply with coming to the table and saying I was compromised. They just won't. It's just not in the mindset of the companies themselves. They want to preserve their company for their stockholders, for everybody else. Sometimes they have to. There's a company, their stock ticker is OTGLY. They make a game. It's called Cyberpunk 2077. It's a very popular game, Cyberpunk 2077, and they got a ransom. They were attacked with ransomware. They're out of Poland. They were attacked with ransomware. They had to report because everyone, it was evident they all went down. But if they don't have to, they're not going to. And I don't have a good answer why that GDPR doesn't have any teeth, except that people are hiding and no one's really coming forward. And it's had the reverse effect of what it was intended. It was intended so people would come out and they could share the threat information where the attacks came from. It's ended up being, let's hide in a hole and not tell anybody anything. So it's done the opposite of what it was supposed to do. So it needs to be reworked. I'm not a big fan of the GDPR for many reasons. That's one of them. The whole who is situation, where they started making everything private, even the anyways, GDPR bad.
Yeah, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I'm a Brahman worker from Trilogy. Particularly, based on my experience, I know that in the United States, you, I said that is deployment of many regulatories and frameworks like NIST, NIST, and like for New York, I know there is New York Communication Technology Security Guidelines. So, have you so far, based on your experience working with Nigeria, have you find out that Nigeria is on a way to find those regulatories, or Nigeria is trying to come up with some regulatories or something like that?
I haven't had the chance. I just haven't met the right people, I guess, to sort of find out where to go up that chain and kind of talk to people about how that's dealt with. Because I'm not really clear on how that works here to this point. I've been here like 5 months. I don't have clarity on exactly how that works. I don't understand it well enough, I guess, to communicate effectively on it or be confident in what I say about it. I will say that it's a good idea to have something, but it's a better idea to have something that's actually workable and works in the community. So I need to do some more work on that. What is the regulatory body here? Who handles all that stuff? Oh, they handle? Oh, okay.
I want to ask: are you guys in any form of are you having any FBI like a joint collaboration with Nigeria government, doing any form of awareness on cybersecurity, cyber threat?
No, but that's a great idea, and I'm going to try to work on that while I'm here. I think it'd be fantastic to have an information share portal between the countries and kind of get the information out there. I just don't know how willing, I don't have a sense of it, how willing the community is to share information, share threat information. In the U.S., we have ways to do that are anonymized, where you can submit information to a portal and your company name is stripped out of it. So it would have to be something like that, and then I think it might work. I mean, if there's a, it's definitely something to work on, and I think that's a big gap. I don't know. There's mechanisms we use in the U.S. to share information, but I don't know what exists here yet. And if nothing exists, then it's a huge gap to fill that can really really do some good. All I have to do is find the right people.
And talking about looking for good hands to work with, Cezanne is one very great community you can engage in the area of even talking about the last question that the commentator has in terms of synergy and working relationship. I mean, we can provide support in that area, with your office. And there's one particular thing that I picked that is more like picking your brain, which is talking about threat monetization. And I think for every security expert, this is one area that we also have to focus on. When do attacks become monetized in our environment? What asset do we have in the environment that we know if an attack, if it's being hit today, the purpose is for monetization? And so how much of security prioritization can we put around that particular asset? So threat monetization, it's also one thing that we should also bear in mind. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, and we are grateful for your time.